of the first chapter, which is the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the setting of the stage. The second chapter, which is a summary study. It is called a summary study because it contains the most important elements of the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna somewhat gave a summary right at the beginning. And then, taking off of the second chapter, a very important principle is the concept of Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi is intelligence. Yoga is yuti, union with the Lord. Intelligence that is connected to the Lord, intelligence that is dependent on the Lord is Buddhi Yoga, where the focus is on the pleasure of Krishna. So, taking on the intelligence which is provided by Krishna, and intelligence is provided by Krishna through our intelligence coming in touch with Shastra and Guru. Right? Shastra is a passive form of instruction, while Sadhu and Guru are active forms because Sadhu and Guru pick up Shastra and deliver it based on their realization. When we use the word realization, it's important to realize, or rather, it's important to know what realizations are all about. Realizations are experiences. Experiences that are in line with the Shastric conclusion. Experiences that one goes through when they take the Shastra and start living the Shastra, not just hearing it. And then you go through experiences and then you start sharing realizations based on those experiences. Right. So, the third chapter begins where the second chapter is left off with Buddhi Yoga and the application of intelligence and the application of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita are all the crux of the third chapter. So in the third chapter, we learn how to keep Krishna in the center. Right? It's an extremely critical chapter without which one cannot proceed further. So the whole process of devotional service starts with faith, Ado Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sango. With a little faith, it allows us to come in association with the sadhus, with the practitioners. Once we come in touch with the practitioners because of our little faith, they are more faithful. And why are they more faithful? Because they have had higher experiences. The more experiences you have, greater becomes your faith, right? When we use the word trust, trust essentially has developed because there has initially been faith, and then when the faith has paid results, it has become trust. Right? So there's a transition. From trust becomes, faith becomes trust. So initially there is little faith, and then we come in touch with the practitioners, we observe them, we become enthused, and the practitioners show mercy upon us. Who carries bhakti? Does Krishna carry bhakti? Krishna does not know what is Krishna bhakti. He does not know. How will he know? Krishna does not know what is Krishna bhakti because he does not know what is the extent or the intensity of love which his devotees have toward him. It's impossible to recognize because he does not know how beautiful he is. Right? He simply does not know why is it that my beauty, my charm is just bewildering millions. What is it which is making my devotees completely bewildered? He does not know what is the bhakti or what is the heart of his devotees. Neither does he fully recognize suffering. Right? It is the devotees who are fully cognizant of what bhakti is. They carry it in their hearts. Krishna is not capable of giving bhakti because he does not carry it in his heart, Krishna bhakti. It is the devotees who carry bhakti in their heart and they distribute the bhakti around. So that's the reason why the devotees of the Lord are far more worshipable than the Lord himself. And this is the conclusion of the Shastra. In Srila Rupa Goswami's Siddhanta, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, in his different books including Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is given that when you are performing arati and you have a Vaishnava entering into the house, you put the lamp down and you serve the Vaishnava first before coming back and resuming the arati. This is the instruction of our acharyas. So one realizes how prominent it is to serve the Vaishnavas how prominent it is just to be in touch with Vaishnavas, because they carry bhakti. They have the ability to give. How can you give if you do not have anything? So Krishna, when he looks at the bhakti of his devotees, he becomes bewildered and he wants to taste this bhakti. When he looks at the complete bewilderment caused amongst his devotees because of his beauty and because of him, he wants to taste what his beauty is all about. That becomes the descent of Krishna into this world as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is non-different from Krishna, but this is Krishna wanting to taste the bhakti of his devotees towards himself. And how would he do it? By becoming a devotee himself. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was an exemplar. He is Krishna wanting to taste his devotion towards himself, and he comes in the mood of the most devoted, which is Srimati Radharani. Right. So the mood of Srimati Radharani is intense bhakti. There's no one who is higher than Srimati Radharani in Krishna bhakti. Right. She is Krishna bhakti pradayini. She is the highest position of Krishna bhakti. There's nothing beyond Srimati Radharani in recognizing Krishna bhakti. So Krishna comes as in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Since Radharani is Gaurangi, she is golden in color, because of his intense meditation in the mood of Srimati Radharani and his descent as in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Krishna's bluish color actually becomes golden. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu, because he carries the mood of Srimati Radharani within him, and that is exemplifying and is coming out, it is pouring forth. It is said that while he chanted on the roads of Navadvip, when he chanted on the roads of Jagannath Puri and throughout India, the tears that used to flow out of his eyes and the ecstasy that he used to experience used to overflow, and it used to touch upon the onlookers and whoever used to be on the streets and whoever used to come in touch with him to such an extent. And how does that happen? It overflows because the heart is full of love, and it starts overflowing. When he is chanting, it starts overflowing. When there is very little love, then there is no overflowing. His love towards Krishna just overflows, and it touches upon others and whoever came across, and they became completely astounded and they took up the service of Krishna Bhakti. Right? So fundamentally you come in touch with Krishna because you associate. Because association allows you and puts you in the association of those who carry bhakti, who have the capacity to give bhakti. So once you go to a temple and you are with devotees, they engage us in the service of the Lord. Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sango, then there is Bhajana Kriya. This Bhajana Kriya does not happen on its own. You have to come in touch with the devotees because they instruct us. You have to come in touch with the devotees because they take the bhakti which is in their heart and deposit it into our heart. Shraddha, Adau Shraddha, faith, is also deposited by the devotees. Even the initial faith is deposited by the devotees. You are on Jagannath Rath Yatra, you decide to pull the cart, you decide to assist with the services, you decide to assist with the movement of Lord Chaitanya. That particular assistance, it could be Agyata Sukriti. You are probably in the road, you are probably an onlooker, you are probably a cop who is directing traffic, but you are favorable to the mission of Lord Chaitanya. That is sufficient for Srila Rupa Goswami to qualify the person to receive the mercy of the devotees. This is Agyata Sukriti. There is some help which is being rendered without knowledge, and then they come in touch with the mission of Lord Chaitanya, and then in the next birth they come in touch with devotees. Extraordinary examples. I have remembered a case where someone was traveling in a taxi cab in New York City. They left a Bhagavad Gita on the seats, and then the next passenger picked it up, started reading, and then went to a temple, became a devotee. This is the arrangement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sukriti was there. There was qualification. There was some qualification because service was rendered in the previous birth. There was some Agyata Sukriti, and that connection kick-started once in this lifetime they came in touch. Right? So you have to come in touch with devotees, you have to come in touch with devotees, and that is exactly how devotional service starts. And then they engage us. When you go to the temple, what do they say? When you come to the Bhakta Vriksha, they say, Prabhu, Mataji, can you serve? Can you help? And when you say yes, and you take the first step, your devotional service has begun because you are engaging your limbs in the service of giving pleasure to Krishna's senses. Devotional service begins right there. They just give you a spoon, serve, they give you something, do something, sweep the place, whatever the case may be, and your devotional service has just begun there. Because now your senses have been engaged in giving pleasure to the senses of Krishna, which is devotional service. Loving devotional service, bhakti is giving pleasure to the senses of Krishna. Right? And then the bhajana kriya, as we do it and we come in touch with devotees and we are with devotees, a lot of dirt that is accumulated for millions and millions of lifetimes starts getting cleared. Right? It is like dusting of a very dirty, unused room. You start picking up some kind of a duster and you start hitting it, trying to dust the place. It appears as if the dust is unsettled. It appears as if it's even more dirty than it was before. But the fact is, the process of cleansing has started, and this is a million year dirt which is going to be cleansed. The cleansing process starts, and this whole process of cleansing, and what is being cleansed? I'm sorry? Consciousness, yes, but what is being cleansed? What are we being cleansed out of? What is being swept out? Vasanas, yes, those desires, those impressions, those aspirations that have nothing to do with Krishna start getting swept out. This requires the mercy of the Lord. It requires effort on our side, both. Right? So you have Gundicha Marjanam. Gundicha Marjanam is the cleansing of the Gundicha temple by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He enters in, and before Jagannath comes from Jagannath Puri to the Gundicha Mandir, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his servants, they started cleaning. And it is said in the Shastra and the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the mounds of dirt which Lord Chaitanya used to create by cleaning the Gundicha Mandir in Jagannath Puri was bigger than any devotee could do so. He used to wash the temple with his tears. Initially, they used to pick up the big debris, they used to clear it, and then they used to go for the more subtle, smaller dust particles, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to cleanse the Gundicha Mandir with his own tears. Right? This used to happen. And what is this? This practically is a process of cleansing of our heart. Our heart needs to initially be cleansed of the major anarthas. The major anarthas defined in Krishna consciousness are intoxication, illicit sex, meat eating, gambling. 4 major anarthas. These are the boulders. This is debris, huge, very spottable. It's not subtle. This gets cleared out when we follow the regulative principles, and when we start chanting the holy names, the cleansing process goes and becomes even more subtle. So that is this process of removal of aspirations, removal of desires, removal of practices and habits which are not connected to Krishna. Essentially, this is a process of eradication of lust. And what is lust? Keeping ourselves in the center is lust. And what is love? Keeping Krishna in the center is love. So the whole process is we are in the center and the debris starts getting cleared up, and slowly, steadily, we move away to the periphery. We allow Krishna to come to the center of our lives, and we stay in the periphery and we serve and give pleasure to his senses. This is the process. This is the process. This process of anartha nivritti is specifically important. Anartha means that which is not important. Nivritti, to be free of. And it is specifically important and is being dealt with in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where we are learning how to keep Krishna in the center despite the fact that we are surrounded by very complex arrangements. This is anartha nivritti. We are surrounded by very complex arrangements where our lives have become so complex for the maintenance of this body that constantly our needs superimpose themselves on being Krishna being in the center. There's always this tug of war of priorities. This is the third chapter of Anartha Nivritti, where Srila Rupa Goswami says that after Anartha Nivritti has to happen, because unless you prioritize Krishna, Krishna is not going to reveal himself. Once we are capable of doing that and we steadily keep Krishna in the center and give pleasure to his senses, slowly, steadily, our senses become purified and the process becomes clear. Once the process becomes clear, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Chetaha is Chitta, consciousness. Darpan is mirror. And Marjanam is to clean. So the mirror of the heart starts getting cleansed. And when the mirror of the heart starts getting cleansed, when Anartha Nivritti is taking place and the Anarthas that are covering the mirror are being wiped away by the chanting of the holy names, wiped away by hearing Shastra, wiped away by reading Shastra, wiped away by serving, associating with devotees. Right? When that mirror gets wiped away, what do we see? What do we see when the mirror of the heart is wiped clean? We see ourselves first. We see who we are, because until now, the identity of the soul is obscured by its previous afflictions, and now in the process of Anartha Nivritti, by service, by chanting, by coming in touch with devotees, the cleansing of the mirror of the heart takes place, where one is clearly able to see that this is who I am. That is transcendental knowledge, the fourth chapter. The fourth chapter is not something which is attainable until such time one is able to steadily keep Krishna in the center. One becomes steady. Right now, in the beginning, during the process of cleansing, 80% of the energy of a practitioner, a sadhaka, goes into fighting unwanted tendencies. Energy is energy. It's neutral. You can either use it for Krishna consciousness or you could be using it against. 80% of the energy in the beginning just goes towards fighting unwanted tendencies. 20% of the energy during sadhana goes towards Krishna. Then this whole process, when the cleansing is complete and one is able to look at who they are in the mirror of the heart, the process reverses itself. 80% goes towards the service of the Lord, because there's very little fighting to be done. There's very little fighting to be done to wake up in the morning. Right? And then 20% goes towards the actual, 20% goes towards fighting for moving forward. So that is being fixed in the consciousness. Being fixed in the consciousness essentially means that you are not going to be fighting a lot. What is the meaning of sadhana? Practice. Sadhana is practiced by force. You are being forced to wake up. You are being forced by the instructions of the Shastra. You are being forced by the instructions of the Guru. The motivation is not from within as yet. You understand? It's more that my Guru has asked me to wake up at 4 o'clock. My Guru has asked me to chant 16 rounds. My Guru has asked me to serve and read Shastra and so on and so forth. This has more to do with what the Guru has instructed. There is very little effort which is being put in on our own. So we find it to be quite a struggle, because we are being forced, and that is the perfect definition of sadhana. Sadhana means being forced. Accept it. Sadhana means being forced, meaning we have not developed a taste as yet. The heart is still obscured. The heart and the mirror on the heart is still dirty. We are still seeing images in that mirror which are not Krishna conscious. The images that we are seeing in the mirror are distorted images of ourselves. We are still thinking we are something else. We are still having aspirations that we are some other identity. Right? So at that stage, it's not very clear. It's a struggle. Once that struggle is over and we are able to see ourselves, it becomes very easy to practice. And that practice is not called sadhana. It becomes spontaneous. Right? I've heard devotees who are advanced, they don't need effort to wake up in the morning. They do not need any effort to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and chant the holy names because they have crossed the stage. Now they know that their identity is they don't belong to this world. They know that they are in the world, but they are not of the world, and they start practicing. But their practice is not the same as that which is being done by one whose heart is full of contamination. Their practice is Shuddha Bhakti. And Shuddha Bhakti means chanting of the pure names of Krishna, offenseless chanting, where Krishna is being called upon, and each time Krishna's name is being called upon, there is intense emotions, intense love, because there's purity. The holy names of Krishna are pure. Atma, we are pure. Then what is it which is a wall which is between us? Why does the Shastra say that people, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to cry in ecstasy? Lord Nityananda used to constantly tear. Right? And everyone, as he walks on the road, children used to get excited because he was so full of love that children, little children, used to become empowered to do some amazing things when he used to walk on the roads of Bengal. So what is it which they were able to do which we were not able to? Because there is a certain wall between us. We are pure. Krishna's names are pure. When we come in touch with Krishna's names, the purity that's between us should come forth. It does not come forth because there's a wall. That wall is the wall of dirt in the heart. For a Shuddha Bhakta, that wall has been broken down. They are immediately come in touch with the holy names, and for them, the holy names are not only the path, the means, the holy name also is the goal. It is the sadhana, it is also the sadhya, both. It's a combination. So transcendental knowledge is revealed after one cleanses themselves. And at the time of transcendental knowledge, it begins with Nishtha. Guru Nishtha essentially means that one has become fixed in the service of his Guru. There is no such thing as being fixed until the dirt out of the heart is kicked out. One has become fixed in the service of his Guru, Nishtha. And then, once there is Nishtha, and there's steady practice, and there is no confusion, 80% of the energy goes into the practice of Krishna consciousness, then it reaches and it becomes Ruchi, taste. What is taste? Taste essentially doesn't mean that someone plays the mridanga well, there's very good harmonium, there's very good, person can sing well, and since they have a sweet voice, the kirtan is enjoyable and the names are enjoyable. Real taste means the person is immediately attracted to the holy names, no matter what the medium is. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you see him with the seconds. He's second from Srila Prabhupada. He is Srila Prabhupada's guru. He used to ask brahmacharis who had poor ability to sing. He used to ask them to lead kirtan. And they used to say, Maharaj, I cannot sing. And he used to say, you lead kirtan. Because when you lead kirtan, there's nothing attractive about your voice. People will only hear the holy names. He had some strategy. He used to say, you lead kirtan because nobody can understand or nobody would want to hear your voices. So they will hear the holy names. So this is wonderful. They will develop some taste for it. You lead kirtan. So real taste and ruchi develops. But it requires fixed consciousness. And after ruchi, there is attachment. What is attachment? Because there is very deep contemplation. Since there is very deep contemplation, there is attachment. This is the same thing as what happens with lust. There is contemplation, and there is attachment, and there is lust. Here there is contemplation, there is attachment, love. So what does it mean? It means that if one has the capacity to do so. One has the capacity to completely forget the world. One has the capacity to completely deprioritize everything else other than what he has in his heart. And that is exactly what is Krishna consciousness. It gets awakened. Right. So that is transcendental knowledge. So the whole process of transcendental knowledge starts with faith, starts with sadhu sangha, starts with a little service, and the service rebuilds on the faith, because every time you have an experience, you are building up faith. So now, yes, I have to answer her question now. No, not yours. Behind you. Yeah, go ahead, Mataji. Fastest track. You really want to be on fast track. Now you're saying this in front of Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra. They will put you on fast track. And this is my humble prayers to them. Yeah, you want to be on fast track, you will be on fast track. But be prepared. It's a fast track. Don't worry. Yeah, Krishna will help you, and you will be on fast track. What is the best way to be on the fast track? See, what is the best way to do anything? The best way to do anything is for us to be able to develop the desire, number one. And once we have developed the desire, we start focusing on the goal. When we start really focusing on the goal, then we would really know how to resolve the complications that come in us not being able to attain the goal. So there first has to be deep contemplation on the goal. Okay? So now we start understanding and deprioritizing and prioritizing Krishna throughout the day. Every step, start thinking, is this something which is going to be conducive for my Krishna consciousness? Is this going to be conducive for Krishna consciousness? Question yourself constantly. Krishna will provide you with the intelligence as to what is going to please him. You will be able to make progress. In addition, what I would suggest is there are very specific prayers which are a part of our Shastra, which you can chant on a daily basis. And these prayers have been written by our Acharyas. Both Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who is second from the right, and Srila Narottam Das Thakur. In their writings, there are many, many songs which are specifically designed for getting the dirt out of our hearts. So what do I recommend? I recommend that we wake up, read and practice the songs written by Bhakti Vinod Thakur and the songs written by Narottam Das Thakur, because all of these are prayers, Vandanam. So when we pray to Krishna, we pray to him in a bona fide, organized manner, which is going in the footsteps of our Acharyas. So take up the prayer books, the Vaishnava prayer book. Chant those prayers, but before you chant those prayers, pray to the author of those prayers. If it is Bhakti Vinod Thakur, pray to him and request him to bestow mercy upon you so that you could offer these prayers in his mood. We cannot imagine the intensity with which he has written those prayers. So we beg him for mercy so that we could offer our prayers to Krishna in his mood. Offer these prayers. And as you offer these prayers quite sincerely, they are very potent and they are very, very powerful. You should also constantly keep your eyes on the goal. Right? So how do you keep your eyes on the goal? You understand what the goal is first. And then you understand what the goal is to attain Krishna Prema, to attain pure devotional service. As you said, how can I put 100% of my energy in serving Krishna rather than fighting? What do I do? Right? So that is our goal. But then how do I attain the goal, and what activity do I do on a daily basis to attain the goal? So you break down the goal into activities. So the first activity that you will be doing, which is conducive, is you will be reading. So that you can live the Shastra. First read, then you start living the Shastra. So that you understand how devotees were. You start chanting nicely. You start associating with greater care. You stop going into association looking for faults of other devotees. We start looking for the qualities of devotees. Right? Prabhupada used to say we shouldn't be a fly. What does a fly do? A fly is automatically attracted towards abominable stuff. Right? We want to be a honeybee, where it really knows that it moves from one flower to the other and it's able to pick up nectar. Right? It's able to pick up nectar from one flower to the other, while a fly, on the other hand, has a propensity for dirt. So we don't want to be flies. So you learn that when you're going in the association of devotees, understand that the association of devotees has been specifically arranged for our purification. It has been arranged in such a way that we would be going through experiences with the devotees that would unearth and expose our own failings, which again is an opportunity for us to cleanse. So you associate with devotees not so much looking to see who can improve. We associate with devotees seeing what good qualities they have so that we imbibe those good qualities. So if you're constantly searching for Krishna, you will see Krishna. If you're constantly wanting to serve Krishna, you will have constantly the opportunity to serve Krishna. So throughout the day when we associate with devotees, we will be able to see that. When you read, read to live the Shastra. When you associate, associate for you to be able to pick the good qualities from the devotees and you to be able to serve them. Right? And then you chant nicely. Chant as if it is the last day on this planet. Every day is the last day on this planet. Get up in the morning, understand that there will be no more opportunities for me to chant. Understand that you are waking up and you're waking up in a place where there are no devotees, no temple, no Krishna, nothing. You just have your beads and that is the last opportunity you have. Call out the holy names with such sincerity. Okay? So what I am trying to tell you is anything and everything requires intensity. Without intensity, one cannot pierce material nature. Material nature is extraordinarily thick. It's many, many layers thick. It's lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of experiences and samskaras thick. How do you penetrate this layer and be able to reach the consciousness of being able to look at who we are? This layer's penetration requires intensity. Intensity essentially means focus. An intense person is someone who is 100% focused on the activity. Right? We use the word intense. What does intense means? Intense column of light, laser, like a laser beam. Very focused. What was this example given in the Shastras? When the Kaurava princess and Arjun, they were all called together when they were younger by Dronacharya, and he had a bird, a toy bird, up on a tree. And the objective was the students were supposed to aim at the bird's eye, not the body, the eye, and shoot the eye. Right? So the first objective for anyone who is taking aim to shoot the bird will be to mark the target. Right? You have to know what your goal is. So he asked all the students one by one. He called Duryodhan, what do you see? He said, I see a big tree. And in that big tree I see a bird. And then he called someone else and he said, what do you see? He said, I see a branch, I see a bird. Then he called Arjun, what do you see? He said, I only see the eyes of the bird. That's it. See, now he has a 100% focus on the goal. He understands the goal. He is 100% focused and he wants to move towards it. So you need to understand that for any of us to make any progress, for us to move forward, there has to be intensity. Krishna consciousness and complacency go ill together. They're not good friends. Krishna consciousness and complacency are not good friends. Anything and complacency is not a good friend. So is the case with Krishna consciousness. Complacency means an easygoing attitude. If we are easygoing, it's not so wonderful. Right? Whoever is easygoing in Krishna consciousness, they are easygoing at work, they're easygoing everywhere. Like drifting. Doesn't work. Right? It doesn't work. Krishna consciousness, it doesn't work. Because you have taken on a PhD course. A PhD course has its rewards, it has its demands. You got to remember that. Okay? So I think I gave an answer which was pretty elaborate on what requires to be done. I said very clearly, focus on the goal. Break down the goal into activity that can be done on a daily basis. You can read, you can chant, you can serve, you can associate. Understand the objective of the main activities in Krishna consciousness on a daily basis. Appreciate it and start putting your effort and energy into it. The more energy you put into it, the more it will return back. And you would be able to make progress. Anything else? It is intoxication, right? It's anartha. I can ask you in a different way. If I were to give you a choice, here's Krishna and here's a cup of tea, which will you choose? Hmm? So you can make your choices, okay? Now, there's always this relative problem. It's a relative concept, right? I can make it a big deal, or I can say, thank God it's only tea, right? Thank God it's only tea. So what I am trying to tell you is, it's obnoxious one way or the other, it's not going to help, right? You have tea, it just takes you on a spin, right? It takes you on a spin. It just fires up all kinds of things. Your caffeine just boosts you up. You know, you can see, you can give a little chocolate to your child. What happens? They become hyperactive, right? A little chocolate because it has caffeine. The same thing happens with tea. It's an addiction. You know, we've all gone there, been there, done that. We're done with it. If we want to be gulam, like they say, to tea, then that's our problem, honestly. If you want to be a slave to tea, that's a problem. But as I said, Mataji, if you really want to throw things away, it depends on how desperate you are for Krishna consciousness. Depending on that, make changes. Krishna consciousness is not a process where someone can twist your arm to make you do things. Krishna consciousness is a process where you will have to take it up on your own, because that's the way Krishna plays the game. He is very clear. Even with Arjun, he could have very easily imposed the Bhagavad Gita on Arjun. He did not choose to do so. Instead, what did he do? He preached to him and he told him, it's your choice. So Krishna consciousness is our choice. So we make the choices. If we believe that there's something which can be given up, give it up. It has been given up. It's not a challenge. Yeah. Well, I don't see. Let me put it this way. We can say that there are so many priorities which are there. You can say that, okay, why don't I go by it? That's perfectly all right. You follow your course, right? But you want the fast track, you better be on the fast track. Okay? It's for your Prabhu. I knew that. Okay, I knew that. So you're showing mercy now. Okay, very good. You should not. Intoxication is addiction, one form or the other. What is intoxication? What is this whole business of drinking tea, drinking coffee, beer, whiskey, superlative? It's all about shifting consciousness. Someone feels that their mind is not quite the way they like it. They feel that their perception and the thinking process is not the way they like it. And they want to shift it, and they're trying to shift it with chemicals, which is what tea, coffee, and everything else is just a bunch of chemicals which are put into the body to alter consciousness. Here we are talking about altering consciousness by calling out the Lord's names and getting the dirt out of our heart. So you can alter consciousness by chanting the holy names, or you can alter consciousness by tea, but chanting of the holy names is the process which is recommended, right? Sublime, for a sublime experience. Yeah. You can see there are many ways to do this. Okay, there are many ways to do this. Many ways. One can move from caffeinated to decaffeinated, from decaffeinated slowly to milk, make it lighter. If you've been having 4 cups, make it 1 cup. You can do a lot of things. Absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many ways to do this if we are determined. Right? There's got to be great determination for wanting Krishna. Once that comes in, then the struggle stops. Since there's no desperation for wanting Krishna, then everything else just remains as, yeah, as, yeah, 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 Yes. Middle path. Well, there is. Let me put it this way: there is a path. Okay. To begin with, let's understand that there is a path. Right? There's no such thing as middle path. There is a path. So what we do is we are on the path and we progressively take steps. So it's not like you wake up one morning and then you suddenly in a flash want to make all kinds of changes and then you go all the way on, the super fast, whatever the path may be. But you gradually develop higher taste. See, there is no such thing as suppression. You develop a higher taste and you give up something which is lower. Now, as you develop a higher taste, you say, I want to give up something which is lower because I've developed a higher taste. So it's like someone who has been on a staple of just one roti and little dal on a daily basis. One day you catch the person and you say, I'm going to feed you a nice big lunch. Okay, there are going to be many varieties of vegetables, there's going to be dal, there's going to be sweet, there's rice, and so on and so forth. How difficult would it be for such a person to give up the roti and the dal? Very easy, because now he is being offered something which is a better proposition than what he is used to. In a similar fashion, what we do is we come into Krishna consciousness, we take up Krishna consciousness, we take steps in Krishna consciousness, take the practice into stride, slowly, steadily, over a period of time, we develop a higher taste, and as we get purified, we give up our tendencies to move away from giving pleasure to Krishna's senses, to our senses. We slowly, steadily make progress. So, to answer your question, I would not say there is a middle path, because a middle path is something where the person is going to cruise along and he's not going to, or she's not going to make any progress because they are on the middle path. What we should do is be on the path and constantly monitor ourselves to see if we can move forward. Take steps that you can handle. It need not be that you make dramatic changes. Take steps. Actually, to begin Krishna consciousness, to chant the holy names, to serve, one need give up nothing. One needs to give up nothing. But as we serve, as we chant, as we are with devotees and we develop a higher taste, we slowly, steadily, we believe that there's something better I can do, and we give it up. So it's not something which is being forced upon anyone, but it is more so a path of purification. But one has to remember that there is the ideal, right? I mean, one has to understand that there is the higher standard and progress towards it at the pace in which they are comfortable, but taking on activities which are beneficial. So take on the chanting of the holy names, chant the Mahamantra, eat Krishna Prasadam, right? And serve alongside the devotees. And slowly, steadily, the intelligence and the strength and the taste will be given for the person to move forward. So it's a more organic process than being forced to do something. So what we do here is when we speak, we are giving a situation which is ideal and what needs to be done. And it has been done. So we are not speaking theory. Every one of us has come from a life, right? We've come from a past into the present. So we have been there, done that. So it's not theory. So we do realize that things can change. We realize that there is a very progressive path. At the same time, we also realize that it requires for the individual to take decisions on their own. It requires for the individual to recognize the importance and then make changes accordingly. I give the example. There are far less mundane objectives for which people completely turn their life around. You have models, right? When they're modeling, they want to maintain their, the shape. And they basically starve themselves literally. They don't eat, they eat little, or they're very restricted in their diet. You have musicians who are extremely careful about protecting the vocal cords, so they don't drink certain kind of thing, they don't eat certain kind of fruits. So you have people from many walks of life, for very mundane achievements in life, they make huge sacrifices. What to say of a sublime goal of Krishna consciousness, which is so high up as a goal? Why not make a few sacrifices in that way? So now we start progressing and thinking on those lines. depending on that, because it's no big deal. You have people giving up so many things for an absolutely mundane goal, and we forget about it. How many of us even remember, you know, these big models and so on and so forth? We don't even know them, but then they pursue a lifetime of wanting to stay in shape for just probably a 10-year or 5 years career, and they starve themselves literally. Just to give an example. Yeah. Mhm. Well, the idea is that you want to basically wean yourself away, and you're taking it on your own pace, and you're doing it at a step by step process, because it's a process of purification. It's a process of prioritization, right? To me, it's more important that people are in the process, they're taking up the chanting of the holy names, they're serving, they're honoring prasadam. It's more important than anything else, because everything else will automatically follow. It is not something which has to be forced upon the person, because the person basically develops a taste and says, what's the big deal? I'm not interested anymore. Right? I'm not interested. People give up the drinking of caffeine for health reasons. Right? So it's really not something which we should be focused upon. We want to be focused upon chanting, we want to be focused upon the process of honoring prasadam. Automatically we start moving out of it. But we also have to keep this in mind. That's the reason why what we say is that we give you the background of what one needs to do, and then we give you the material, and then the intelligence and the work has to be done by us. It's not something which the other person can do. We can only give you the ideas and the thoughts. Well, how much sugar you can have? It is. It's a big thing, because see, Balaram, he is considered to be intoxicated. His intoxication, it is read in the Shastras, his eyes are rolling, is reddish, and he's glancing at his devotees through his reddish eyes, and he's in his intoxicated glance, because what is he drinking? Honey. You drink a little pot of honey, you become intoxicated. It's like having, 2 or 3 gulab jamuns or whatever. Sugar goes in, you become intoxicated, right? You feel sleepy. So it's a different kind of intoxication, right? But intoxication, distorted consciousness, is one that puts us in the mode of ignorance. There's a big difference. The mode of ignorance is what is caused by the chemicals. Here, we are predominantly attempting to maintain the mode of goodness. Now, let me just explain this, since we are in transcendental knowledge. We are trying to become transcendental. And what is transcendental? It has to be above matter for something to be transcendent. Matter is ignorance, tamas, passion, goodness, and above that is transcendence. So the whole process of principles of abstaining is designed to keep us in the mode of goodness, in sattva. So you avoid intoxication, you avoid meat eating, you avoid illicit sex, and you avoid gambling. The whole idea is it keeps you in the mode of goodness, because the mode of goodness is a platform which is going to be used by us for us to go higher. Transcendental. We are talking transcendence here. How can you even reach a destination if you don't reach the airport? We cannot take planes from home. You have to at least reach the airport. Now the airport itself, reaching there, is not the goal. You want to use the airport to get into a plane so that you could fly higher. So the airport should be considered as the mode of goodness. And that becomes a platform for us to be able to use, for us to be able to transcend, for us to be able to go. But for you to at least reach the airport, you have to make certain moves. So that's what this whole regulative principle aspect is. And this is not new to Krishna consciousness, by the way. Any spiritual sadhana that you take up, if you have to reach the mode of goodness, there are certain things that you eat, there are certain things that you avoid eating, there's a certain time to go to bed, there's a certain time to wake up, there's a certain thing that you do during the day, there's certain chanting that you got to do. This is a regimen. And all of this is to keep us in sattva, mode of goodness, so that we are sattvic, and being sattvic would allow us to move forward. So if one is not even sattvic, where is the question of moving forward? So we principally are not interested in either drinking tea or avoiding tea, drinking, whatever the case may be. We are not interested in either abstinence or acceptance. We are interested in positioning ourselves so that we could take off. And if positioning ourselves so that we could take off into Krishna consciousness requires the practice of certain things and the giving up of certain things, we do it. You see, Krishna consciousness is not what do you call it? It's not your regular religion. This is not religion where we can say that we do things without even understanding what the rules are. Here, everything is perfect. Srila Rupa Goswami had 2 rules, and what were those rules? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. These are the 2 rules. So what is going to help me remember Krishna? What is going to help me not to forget Krishna? This is exactly how we divide our activities. That's all. Then imagine what will happen if we don't follow. Yeah. Then imagine what the disaster if we don't follow the principles. Even if you follow, we are not in the mode of goodness. My God, that's a frightening prospect. Yes. Yeah, see the regulative principles in themselves, not drinking, intoxication, meat eating, all of these are not the goal of Krishna consciousness. All of these are steps that are necessary to remain in goodness, so that, Prabhupada used to call it, all of this is required to be a human being. He was very straightforward. He said, this is required for you to be a human being. Then you can start thinking about going even higher. First become a human being. Follow the regulative principles. This was Prabhupada's. And he used to call it the regulative principle of freedom. Because all of these habits are fundamentally incarcerating us. We are dependent on the habits. They are holding us prisoner. So you become liberated from these habits. These are regulative principles of freedom. Interesting. It's a paradox. You're regulating, which essentially means there's a restriction. But then you also use the word freedom because these restrictions are actually making you free. It's an interesting combination. Anything else? That's the reason why we call it. Gifts are personal. You see, gifts are very personal. Gifts given by Krishna are to be treasured. So that's the reason why we call them realizations, and we write them down. If you maintain a log, you write them down. Every time you have an experience where you realize and have an experience of Shastra, you write them down. Because that's a gift that has been given. We can be, because if it is aligned with Shastra, you can be. Can be. You can monitor it. See, a gift which is given by Krishna will allow you to come closer to Him. That's the beauty of that gift. It can be anything. Now you're right. It necessarily is something which will bring you closer to Him. Yeah. You're right. We never know as long as it helps us move towards Him. Anything else? So we'll end here for today. So we touched upon the topic, we understood bhakti, we understood the fact that coming in touch with devotees is paramount for us to be able to make progress and being in the association of devotees. We spoke a little bit on the need for intensity, and intensity is required for us to make progress. How intensely do we desire to make progress is a matter for our own discretion, it's our own thought. We also spoke of the fact that we constantly monitor ourselves to see where we are heading in terms of our reading, in terms of chanting, associating, and serving. And slowly, steadily, the heart is cleansed and it starts becoming revealed as to who we are. And at that time, there's a greater impetus and there's greater focus on being able to follow devotional service. It's a natural process. So that which is being forced initially becomes natural in the second stage. Right, we'll stop right here. In the following week, we'll continue with the 4th chapter. Right, Srila Prabhupada ki